For this session, I wrote 47 words. For this session, I wrote 66 words. I forgot to do a February word count update, and the month's total ended up being 2,829 words. Here is the trend graph for February. And then for comparison, this is January. For this session, I wrote 20 words. It has been an inordinately difficult pass of my manuscript, and after a lot of troubleshooting, I finally came up with a solution. I've been making a lot of progress in my other projects, so aside from my primary manuscript, I have been writing a lot, and I have been continuing in my very, very slow reading pace. I have upped the ante in my body work. I've been treating my body work as my writing, even though it's not directly pertaining to it. The body is the vessel for the writer, the artist. And I will say that in so doing, I feel that my stamina for my projects have been much more improved. Having practiced writing intuitively, I now am more in tune with where my true stop points are, and I have been applying that toward my other projects, that I've not been overextending myself in any particular direction. And overall, I have been noticing a much more resilient quality to my right life. I don't think resilience is just simply an attitude. There is a physicality to it as well, and that manifests in stamina, in sustained longevity. And this longevity is a little different than endurance, in my opinion, because it is more a natural ability to see and ride out the long haul than endurance, which connotes to me this feeling that you're kind of really pushing for it with your will. The body work has been very, very difficult, and it has been quite the discipline. But I stick with it because it works for me. I am seeing tangible outcomes in my attention to my breath and body, and my creativity has truly multiplied in this focus. Let's move on to some new books in my collection, beginning with the Vintage Turgenev Volume 1 and Volume 2. And this is a collection of Turgenev's short stories and what else is it? Short stories and novellas. I didn't realize how tiny the print was in these books, and that's sometimes the case with these pocket-sized books, but I did want this to be very portable. A while ago, I talked about Turgenev when I first read Fathers and Sons, and after reading Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and Goncharov, there definitely is a lot to be desired. Goncharov and Dostoevsky, they have made fun of Turgenev in that he writes sketches. They have criticized him for his lack of depth, especially since he only writes rather short works, but also generally across the board it seems that the Russian greats don't like his character as a person. Turgenev was received well abroad, but in his home country it seems that he has had a very tumultuous reception. mainly on the premise that he is a rather pretentious character. I'm of course speaking to Turgenev in his times in relation to his peers and society. And what I'm speaking of is not my opinion, it is based off of what I've read from his peers in their criticisms of the man. While Turgenev is not my personal favorite author, I do feel that he has a lot to offer in the way of study. In particular, Turgenev was the author who first introduced the nihilistic character in literature, at least according to my readings. And even though I do feel that there is a lot to be desired after reading Turgenev, I do feel that there are some strengths that he does have. Bazarov, for example, is a character who has stayed with me since I first encountered him in Fathers and Sons. So I do want to make more of a study on Turgenev's works to inform my research in character depictions. I need his sketches as a reference image, so to speak, kind of like how a painter needs a reference image to sketch onto the canvas before moving on to the actual painting. That is my intention with Turgenev. Next up, we have, finally, Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And I picked up this copy because it wasn't a creepy cover, but also I finally decided to revisit it because I want to read this along with the memoir Reading Lolita in Tehran. I also really love this cover because of the signature. It feels like I got an autographed copy of the book. And then lastly, I got Nature, Man and Woman by Alan Watts and The Way of Zen by Alan Watts. I enjoy Alan Watts. I think he has quite the range in subject matter that he writes about. His writing style speaks to me. It's always a little bit challenging, provocative, and definitely interesting. That is it for this vlog. I'm going to get to my writing session, and then once I have that done, I will add that clip at the end. For this session, I wrote 54 words.